After college, and I worked in banking for about a year, and I just hated it. And I had some friends in real estate, and went through real estate school, and I asked Bill Gray at the end who was the most prestigious real estate shop in town, and back in the 80s, that was Russ Lyon. They were the dominant firm, and I worked there for about 7 or 8 years, and I was selling those old Hallcrafts down on Granite Reef for $79.9 and $85.9, and giving Mr. Lyon about 40% of that. And the reason I still tell that part of the story is I learned from the true professionals of our industry. I can name names forever, but Carol Nord and Olivia Quist and Rusty Davis, and those were my original mentors, and still today I consider them to be friends and mentors. Then I went and did a stint at Realty Executives, primarily because of the commission, but the Rector family that started Realty Executives was still very involved in the company. And I worked there for 10 or 12 years, and the original owner of Remax Fine Properties, Dave Metzner, was a guy that I had trained with back in our early Russ Lyon days. We were 2 of the youngest people that had ever been hired. And he kept recruiting me over to Fine Prop. I'd see him at Costco, or I'd see him somewhere. Hello.
Thanks for teaching today.
I'm not teaching, I'm just
You're
talking.
teaching.
And anyway, so I've been at Fine Properties for about 12, 13 years now, and I don't plan to ever go anywhere else. But the point of that scenario, and this relates to you because you're also colleagues here at Fine Properties, is I believe there's an awful lot of value for working for who is perceived to be the #1 company and the #1 brand in the market. I mean, our balloon is the biggest symbol in real estate in the world. And we don't have to explain when you hand out a card and say, I'm with HomeSmart, what are you, a house cleaning company, or do you do home staging, or what exactly is HomeSmart? So congratulations on that. We have no excuses and represent the biggest brand in the industry. So 32 years later, I'm still trying to figure it out. But one of the things that I'm here to talk to you about today, or I guess the main thing that I mentioned to Dell, is my style is that I'm social. And I think most of you are social, right? We have to have sales skills, but we have to be likable, and that's part of someone that you don't know selecting you and trusting you to buy or sell their life, their house, their most major investment is they trust you and they think you're confident and going to be communicative and everything else, but they also like you, or they wouldn't want to work with you for a month or 2 or 3 or 6 months. So what I've done in the last several years that's paid a lot of really nice dividends for me is just getting involved socially. Some of this is with SAR. Most of you, or many of you, know that I'm currently on the SAR board of directors. And a whole story with how would knowing other realtors ever help my business? They're never going to buy or sell another house from me. But I think, Frank, you being an owner would argue that being known and respected by your peers and your colleagues is very valuable. I had 3 transactions this summer with multiple offers because they were all little deals, and in each case we won the battle. One, my finance buyer won over a cash buyer, and partially because they knew they'd done deals with me, we'd worked together at a prior company, and he knew I was going to be professional throughout the transaction. So don't sell that short. But SAR has many volunteer committees. The one that you actually get out and meet people and show that you're a volunteer is community outreach, and they don't meet very often. None of these committees meet very often, just once a month or so. No cost, you're just asked to show up and lead and be a volunteer. So enough about SAR, but what I've also then gotten onto the last couple of years is the Boys and Girls Club of Scottsdale. I'm on their board of directors. It's another thing that I've done for 3 years and I plan to do very long term. But I've had several bits of business from it, some small, some larger. And I know that as my career goes on, this is going to be kind of my retirement plan, because those people see me making a difference with our organization, see me putting an effort above and beyond, and most of them are not in the real estate business. They're in lending, or they're in the corporate world, or whatever. And that's the idea. You get out and mix and mingle with these other organizations. People get to know you. they like you, they trust you, they're gonna call you. Another one that's been around forever, and I think you're probably, in Colorado, we're probably very active in your Chamber of Commerce. That's not free, but if you look at the cost of business to spend $500 or $600 a year to join the Chamber, there's literally hundreds of events and openings and different things that you can go to. And if you become someone that's visible around the Chamber, and whether you're a morning person or an afternoon person, there's events all throughout the week. Very easy schedule to work into your busy schedule. So another thing that I'm so overcommitted right now, but if you went into my desk and looked at my calendar, almost every day has a line or two that's either volunteer work or SAR work or something that I'm doing, to get involved in the community. But there's two different programs that I've been through. One I'm currently going through that I'll talk to you about briefly. SAR has a leadership academy, and it was based off Scottsdale Leadership Academy. I'm going through Scottsdale Leadership right now. I'm in class 33, which means there have been 33 years of this group go through. And it's between 45 plus or minus people from all walks of life in Scottsdale. You don't have to live in Scottsdale. But there is a fee for it. There's an application process to go through it. But we go through about 7 months, twice a month, of meetings where we get involved in every facet of the city of Scottsdale, whether it be education or healthcare or police and fire or on and on and on. But these become great talking points. Especially healthcare, I've used so many times in talking with people. You may have read recently, but we're going to be, really a healthcare mecca. I'm a lot older than most of you, and when we grew up, if a parent was sick or ill, they'd likely go to Rochester, where Mayo Clinic was, if they had the money and the resources. Well, we are going to be, if we're not already, that destination for people all around the country and all around the world. But I got to see one of the lead doctors, that's fine, by the way, in most of my committees. One of the lead doctors with Mayo Clinic, who is the leader in proton therapy, which is a very specific therapy to your organ that's sick, and they don't affect the organs surrounding it like typical therapies would. Just great talking points throughout it. But the point is, get involved, whether it's your church, your synagogue, your anything. Just get involved. Get out there and meet people and let them know your character. Let them know you're a realtor. Always have your business cards with you. But just get involved. I'll take it down to even a little simpler level. If you have young kids, get involved. Be a coach. You're going to meet 15 other parents. Some of you have done. Had your kids in Girl Scouts. Get involved. Just get out in your community and meet people. Dell's big, and there's nothing wrong with getting out there and knocking doors and making phone calls, but I'm just here to tell you there's another way to do your business and really attract quality leads. So, any questions about any of this?
And referrals too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Greg?
Paul, we talk about a lot of times in these classes being in the flow. And that's a perfect example of you have to create groups that you're in the flow with.
Right.
Because those become your next clients and that kind of thing. And it's interesting that I think it's good karma. I think it's, I don't know whether it's your faith, the universe, or whatever it is, but by doing that and giving of yourself, it always turns into business. And that's not why you're doing it. I understand that. That's not, if you get into volunteer work and things like that, say, oh, I need, that's going to be, how I'm going to get my business, it won't work. But if your heart's in it, somehow it just.
Well, because you're, I'm sorry, I was just giving my own 2 cents. Because you're in it, because you do have a passion for it, whatever it is, right? So my story is no different. In addition to all the solicitations that I've done over the years, you guys know I'm a runner. And I belong to 3 or 4 different running groups for the last 25 years. And I got a ton of business in 15 years. And I used it a ton with a small T. I mean, it wasn't an amazing amount, but it was a good portion with a small T that I've done a ton of business just from running with people. And it does make a difference, price range, referrals. You just, when you're running 20 miles with somebody, you get intimate and you do this 3-4 days a week. So you make a relationship. That same thing with Paul. I did it through my synagogue. I was involved. I was years ago with my kids. One thing, you know, it doesn't have to be a professional organization. It could be a social organization. Whatever you do, you belong to the wine club of America, right?
You know,
Well, you're always whining, not drinking wine. You're always whining.
He does it 3 times a week.
You know, I just did sign up though, the beginning of the year, at Thompson Peak Medical Center to be a volunteer. And I did that for several reasons. I have a fear of hospitals, so I figured it'll get me over the fear. But I'm intrigued by it. My twin sister's a nurse. My daughter is going to school to be a nurse. So I'm gonna entrench myself in it and see what happens. I'm not doing it for leads or anything like that. I'm doing it because that's where my heart is right now. I've committed to 4 hours a week for 6 months. And I figured we'll see where it goes, but it's a great opportunity
Sure.
to meet people.
And
be
there's nothing wrong at some point in that relationship, depending on your personality and your style. At some point, just say, listen, this is what I do for a living, or I work for a company. I love to put you on my mailing list. Do we have any objections? And it's just kind of a soft sell, if you will. Yeah.
When you were talking about sports, my son, when he was playing baseball, one of the parents took, and you know when you go and you sit there, you talk to these people every week, and then you go back the next week, and you're like, oh shoot, what's their name? Who's their kid? They had a picture of the kid, their number, and then had the parent's name on like a laminated sheet. So every week, I saved this thing for years, because not only did he play baseball, then he played football with some of the same parents, but it was a cheat sheet for the parents and the kid's name, and you could brand that with your information. People hold on to that stuff, and it's super cheap to produce.
Sponsor the team. Listen, I have to tell you the funniest story ever. So I just got my real estate license. It's 1990. I mean, I'm no more than 6 months into the business. And I work for Coldwell Banker, which has an amazing beginning program.
Training program.
Yeah, training program.
Fast Start.
So Fast Start. So one of the things they talked about was, they called it the 7-second presentation. You know, hi, my name is Sandy, I sell real estate. If you or anybody you know have any real estate needs, I'd love for you to give me a call. Right? People can't say no, they can't tell you to drop dead because you didn't ask them a question, so there was no rejection. It was just, anyway. So my kid is 5 years old, 6 years old. He plays in his first micro soccer. It wasn't even soccer yet, it was like micro soccer or mini soccer. And the kids just, you know, it's 25 kids just chasing the ball around. It's funny, there was Coach Jim, and you know, just like you said, you said all the parents. So every time we had a practice, Coach Jim would just get the parents in a circle and talk about, you know, you're on snack duty next week and you week, and then you will do this, and you're going to have a pizza party, and you know, so all the parents participated. So I waited till I got to know Jim a little bit better, and when the moment was right, it was just me and Coach Jim, and I said, hey, Jim, just so you know. And I gave him that whole 7-second presentation with his card. He said, sure, that's great, I'll hold on to it. Okay? 6 months later, let me tell you who Jim turned out to be. For those that don't know, Jim's last name is Jim Sexton. For those that don't know who Jim Sexton was, at the time, back in the day, John Hall and Associates was a major local company. Jim was John Hall. He bought the company years ago. He was the broker, he was the owner. Then he became the DB when John Hall sold out to Realty One. Jim is a giant icon in our industry, in our city. Is, currently, and has been. And I'll never forget, he just said, sure, okay, thank you. And, you know, it's just, so you never know who, you never know,
Yep.
right? So,
In my notes, I would echo 100% what Frank said and what Sandy said. Don't do it for your leads. Do it because it's something you enjoy. Our business is, for the most part, 24/7. The phone rings at 10 o'clock at night, we pick it up. Phone rings on Sunday, and you're watching your game, you pick it up. So we need some distractions. We need something else that's away from real estate. But this is a way to get away and yet be doing business development
Sure.
without pushing or trying or knocking on doors or making calls that you don't want to make.
You know, Dell's really helps develop teams, and I'm more of an individual, and so I was going to talk a little bit about what I do as an individual that you might want to consider doing. But I'm like Bill Gray. I like to start off, what do you guys got going? You know, I want to share your story, Frank Ken, for a little bit, Sylvia, what we talked about last night. You know, just what's going on in the industry, and just this is your chance to ask some questions. I know we've been talking about a couple of things last week, but Sylvia has a listing Okay, can I tell the story, is that all right?
Sure, sure.
Sylvia has a listing, I was gonna do it anyway, just. Make sure you look at it. Anyway, Sylvia has a listing, it's a full-fledged listing, and, next thing you know, she gets, it's listed for about a month, and next thing you know, she gets a email from OfferPad asking Sylvia to send pictures of her listing.
No, the seller.
Or the seller sent it to it. Seller went to OfferPad and said, hey, OfferPad, here's my house, how much you can offer me? So Sylvia says, well, what do I do now? You know, what happens if OfferPad wants to buy the house? What's Sylvia's position, number one? Does she cooperate and things like that? And I don't know if anybody else has had this experience, but, so, what I've done personally and then what I've seen as broker, OfferPad is nothing more than a buyer. Think of it in those terms. They're just a buyer. So imagine you have a listing and somebody from Realty Executives calls your seller calls somebody to Realty Executives and says, I want you to make an offer on my house. It's no different, okay? Because we have a listing agreement, Sylvia cannot be bypassed on the transaction. And because OfferPad is a licensee, even though the seller contacted them directly, OfferPad must go through Sylvia because they know it's listed. So just look at OfferPad as nothing more than a buyer who's making an offer. It's nothing more than that. It's just a new way that we're doing business. OfferPad, what's the other one? Open Door, and it's just a new way that we're doing business. It doesn't change anything.
So your seller contacted them
Mhm, and
to
she
see if
said
they would buy the house, and they started trying to.
They're in, so then I got the email from OfferPad saying, send us the photos of the house.
Which means OfferPad knows it's listed,
Right.
right? So if OfferPad plays by the rules, they're a licensee. If they're not a licensee, they can't sell real estate, right? So if they're a licensee, they must go through listing agent. So they cannot be sold without her. So it'd just be interesting how it all
But I
plays
didn't
out.
know what the whole,
They have
even said
criteria.
the whole thing about the commission structure.
And they have, right, and they have certain price ranges that they won't go above. So if I have this, a lower end listing, I might say lower end, you know, if it's $450 or lower, I'll send it to OfferPad, as a listing agent, after I get the listing, I will send it to OfferPad. Because you know it's gonna be a lowball offer, it's the only way they can do business. So then I share with my seller, just so you know, I got an offer from OfferPad, we're at 300, they're offering you, 189.
So they're eventually gonna see that.
I think you will. Now, I don't know, how else do they
Yeah,
do it?
make business.
You know, listen, they don't hold property, they don't rent property, they just buy it and sell it. So if they're gonna make any kind of money on it, they've gotta buy it at a lower price in order to sell it.
So do they pay my commission to the seller?
Will you sell it? Do you have a
Oh,
listing agreement?
yeah, that's
Nothing,
what I
nothing,
was-
just think of them as a buyer. Just like when we do REOs in banks, and they have all these addendums, a bank is nothing more than a seller. You know, we call them a special thing, we call them as opposed to the bank, or they're an investor, or they're just a seller. They're nothing more than that.
Well, and if you go through, Offer, or Open Door, or OfferPad, or any of those, if you ask them, like when you get those listings back, if you see their fees are almost equivalent. By the time they knock off 3% off your sales price, they're
They
not
call
gonna
it,
get
they have an
free.
administrative fee,
They
they
have
don't
all
call it a
kinds
co-broke. They won't take a
And
commission,
they
but they have
on their
administrative fee.
website, no, something about the fees, it's like 8
Yeah.
to 13%.
And they don't
Exactly.
offer market price. I mean, it's a big, it's.
They have to, otherwise,
How do you make money?
and some people believe that there's some properties they will buy as a loss leader, just to get their name, just to say they're doing all this business. You know, you sell one home this year and sell 2 homes next year, you can advertise that your business increased last year 100%,
Yeah.
right? It's just a numbers game, so sometimes they do it as a loss leader too.
My daughter-in-law's mom lost her husband, so she wanted to just sell her house real quick. So she didn't want to list it, so she just went to OfferPad or Open Door, one of them. And so I checked around to figure out what they bought it for, and I looked at the comps, and the house behind her was the exact same floor model that sold in July for $685, and they bought hers for $605. And that's.
So watch this.
Oh, I think it's a lot.
So
When
I go
you
to these-
think about the commission she would have paid would have been so much less.
I go to these quarterly,
700.
I go to these quarterly luncheons, and I go to one today, and at this room is all the icons that Paul is talking about. The commissioner will be there, Michelle Lynn will be there, Scott Druck will be there, the Sixers, I mean, all the movers and shakers that have been around, that have made our industry today what it is, are all at this meeting. And about 3 meetings ago, Mark Paris, I don't know if you have Mark Paris, who just unfortunately passed away recently and was a Remax owner-operator. He challenged, can you shut this off for a second? it's around, you know, whatever we believe these, you know, online companies are gonna be, they're gonna be around for a little while. I think it's all gonna shake out in the next year or so. I think, you know, you don't hear much about EXP, you don't hear much about Open Door and OfferPad. I mean, you don't hear a lot as much as you did 2 years ago when they started coming into the marketplace. And I think there's gonna be a shakeout. I think one company's gonna buy another company, there'll be some consolidations, and then it's gonna be back to normal business, you know, back to normal business.
So,
What is normal?
I'll touch just for a minute on this Leadership Academy again so that it's clear. The Scottsdale Leadership, again, I'm in class 33, there's 1,150 alumni. It's like being part of a fraternity or sorority. The alumni group meets a couple of times a year, and it's just old friends and people that you've, you know, loved and became great pals with. But the Realtor version was created by Bob Pierce, our former CEO of Scottsdale Association. He went through leadership and he says, you know, we ought to do a junior program similar to this for realtors only. And there's a few affiliates that go. So I went through that first a few years ago, and we've talked about that. I think that's great for new agents or young agents because you get the same experience for a little less of a time commitment, a lot less money, and yet you get those same great talking points for your business. You get, you know, to hear and meet with the chief of police and the chief of the fire department and put on your fire gear and go up in the ladder truck and all these cool experiences with that day. And so if you have questions about the chamber, I know all those folks very well. I strongly encourage you that's a great investment of $500 or $600 because there's just so many programs. You don't have to say, okay, every Friday for the next 6 or 8 months I'm in leadership. Chamber, you can pick and choose morning, evening, hey, I like that, or I heard about this new restaurant that's opening, or I want to do their business development. So any and all of those organizations that I've spoke of, please come in, call me, come into my office and we'll chat and answer any and all questions, and then I can put you in touch with the people that you would need to talk
And there's
to.
another great aspect of that, you know, you belong to a realtor association, you don't always get business from your own, you know, business, but I'll tell you what, for those that you're bidding against somebody else, multiple offers, if you know that agent on the other side, boy, what a world of a difference it makes. Whether it's a Binzer item or an appraisal item, I can tell you as a broker, you know, I go to the tons of meetings, probably at least 2 a week with a broker forum for the last 6 years. I won't say that I know all of them, but I know a lot of them, especially the major players. And when a broker calls another broker and we've had a relationship of some sort, that phone call is so much easier to work out a problem. It just is, because we know each other. There's a personal relationship there. And the same thing on my real estate hat. You know, I'm making an offer or I receive an offer, and I've done business with Colleen before. You can bet that I just as soon try to do business with her again if I can. It makes a world of a difference. So whether you go to the realtor tours or belong to the associations, it just makes a world of a difference in your business. It just does,
I
yeah.
wanted to say something about Scottsdale Leadership, because I haven't gone through the entire thing, but this year was the first time I had the opportunity to sponsor a day. And what a cool thing. First off, you know, people come back from the year before to plan the day and kind of be the mentors. And there were some really, really great realtors involved in it. And that day I was part of, we went to the preserve for the conservatory of Dell Mountain and got to hear what the plans are for the hiking trails and expansion. And then the afternoon we went and had lunch at Sing Farms,
Yeah.
kind of by McDowell and McKellips, and got to hear from, what's his first name? Mr. Singh.
Yeah, the old hippie, I call it.
Yes, he's like hilarious.
Yeah.
And he was so just motivational
Genuine
about,
and,
yeah, how he tries to do everything organic with his farms and what his previous job was and how he really got passionate about having, you know, no pesticides in everything. The food, I think, was one of the best meals I've ever had. I didn't know they do weddings there. Like, I learned so much about Scottsdale in like the 8 hours. I couldn't even believe I've lived here for this long and I didn't know a lot of these things.
Yeah.
And that was just one day out of, I think, 12 weeks? How long is it?
12.
12 weeks. So I really.
She's speaking of the realtor version, and they're both fantastic. They're just a little different.
You know, Paul, Sandy, and you know this, but I was on the Ethics and Arbitration committee for Pikes Peak Association of Realtors for 12 years, and I chaired it for 5. And when I do a listing appointment, that was the last thing that I would say. Because when you're, a lot of times when you're working with buyers, sometimes it's just the first time you guys meet, and people don't have a tendency to interview buyers like they do when you're going for a listing. A lot of people want to interview several realtors for a listing and that kind of thing, but everybody's gonna show what their awards are and what their production is, which a lot of times doesn't really mean anything to anybody. Results in the neighborhood do. But when I would say, and the one thing of all the awards, put those away, whatever my production was, put those away. The one thing I'm most proud of in my career is that I'm on ethics. I represent the Pikes Peak Association of Realtors on the ethics and arbitration board. And it was just like, right there. It was just like they knew. And I would say, because I don't know how it is here, but you have to be nominated for PPAR. So, and I said I didn't submit my name for that. I was nominated by a group of my peers because of the way I do business. And right then it was almost like people have a general distrust for realtors anyway. And when you hear that, it was, there were times people just on that said, you know what, I'm 100% comfortable, let's move forward.
I used the same thing with my SAR board position. I say that, oh, by the way, I ran for the board, and I'm on a 12-member committee representing and making policy for our 8,500 realtors throughout Scottsdale, which also gives me a position on the board of the Arizona Association of Realtors, and we meet in caucuses in the spring and the fall for that, and that's really enjoyable to me to, and it's not so much your first meeting or even your second, but your third or fourth time around, you're meeting like Judy Lowe and
Well, you make a good
people like
point,
that.
Frank. I never thought about that, right? So anybody can, and I'm not downplaying designations, but for a few dollars and you sit through a few classes, we can get our CRI and GRI and ABI, get all those things. But not everybody could be on a professional standards or a grievance committee, or I sit on grievance. I mean, on the professional standards and Armless Board Rules Committee. But the point being, you have to be nominated. And that's I never thought it in those terms.
Yeah, that's
Anybody
awesome.
can get a designation by just going to a class, but not everybody can be on that, and everybody wants to be on that. And I think that elevates your game, because you take your business seriously.
Did you
That's a
bribe
great
them
point.
to nominate you?
Everything has a price.
So
Bribing helps.
unless you have any questions, that's kind of it for me, but please reach out to me one-on-one if you'd like to talk further about any of these organizations or be introduced to the people that you need to talk to join, but yeah, Frankie.
Just to let some of the ladies know that I found an organization that's amazing. It's so simple, you don't have to put a lot of time in it, but it's called HOW, and it's Helping One Woman. And every month, they come together, they nominate one woman who has had some setbacks in her life, who is struggling or going through something, and they have a dinner, and they have, they come and it costs for your meal, and then you put $10 in the thing for that woman. And it is the neatest organization, and it's every month. There's a Scottsdale chapter, there's a Phoenix chapter, and it's not a lot that you have to do, but you're really helping somebody who needs help. So
That's how I like to help people too. Like, I have a hard time throwing my money into a charity. I'd rather just
Right.
see
Yeah.
who I'm
Direct
helping.
it.
Do you know what I mean?
Right,
That's
it's
not
really,
personal.
it's
Yeah,
called
that's
HOW,
cool.
H-O-W.
That's awesome, Frankie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One last thing before Paul leaves, I want to say that Paul is a perfect example of somebody who, sometimes I'm not sure if I like that word, so I think social in real estate sometimes has a negative connotation, because I know you and I have talked about that a lot, because I've said, Kelly, I want Kelly to get in the office more, and she said, I'm so social.
I'm too
And I said,
talkative.
there's a big difference between being social and networking. Paul was, when I joined, Paul was one of the guys that came down to my office several
Yeah.
times in my first month or two, and just, in fairness, and I've mentioned to Dedell and Greg, I said, I'm shocked how few people, because I came from a very coddling environment. I was shocked how few people actually, as I was a newer realtor in the company, actually came down and just said, hello, Frank, how are you? I'm so-and-so. How are you doing? If you need anything. Paul did it on the first day, and he popped around, maybe over a couple month period and just said, "Hey Frank, how's it going? I know how it is when you're getting started in a new market. How's everything going?" And that kind of thing, and that's huge, and so I commend you for that, because I think you bring a lot of energy to the office.
I would add on to what you said, is there is value for coming into the office. You know,
Oh, yeah,
you-
I have fun.
You can come into the bullpen and dialogue, and before Sandy was the broker, now that he is our DB, I still do it, but I know the answer to some situations or questions, but I'll bug him and we'll have some dialogue about it, just so I can reassure myself that I'm approaching it correctly or wording this language correctly. And we know the answers, and he'll do the same with me once in a while, but that's the value of being in the office. We work for the biggest, best brand in the world, and you've got like the Mathesons and Joe Zabo and Dell and any of these people that are an open door to you. So don't, if you have a fear for coming to the door, get over it.
And I think that new office is
We
is
should
going
talk about
to,
that.
Yeah.
I think that's going
I do
to
too, yeah.
really build,
We
if
should
you
talk about that. Nobody knows about it.
Well, we
you
announced it.
announced it.
We did?
Just before
Where
Paul
was
leaves,
I?
wait, before Paul leaves, I just want to,
I wasn't in the
Paul,
office.
if Paul ever invites you out for a beer after work, go.
Yeah.
But be prepared, because here's what Paul's gonna do. When you get there, you're gonna think it's just you and Paul. And Paul will have about 4 or 5 other people that you probably don't know.
Oh, cool.
And then Paul will leave. And you're gonna be sitting there with your drink with 4 or 5 people that you don't know. Just be prepared. Just
Why did that happen?
That one day, my wife and I were sharing a car,
Just-
and she needed to be at an appointment, so I had to leave.
But she was the DD.
She was a DD.
And I'll never live that down, because Greg was there too. If he was there, he'd
Yeah, no worries.
stick it to me on that one too.
Thank you, Paul.
All right, guys, thank you.
Well, did you meet?
Yeah, listen, we can talk about anything you want. My specialty is talking about what you want to talk about, and if you have nothing, I'll make something up. If you want to talk about the office, you were at the meeting on Tuesday and Bill brought it up. So for those that don't know, we are in escrow to purchase the office building right next to us. Okay, it's not a done deal, we still have some things to go through, but that's the plan. And as Del would say, he's not married to the plan, but he's excited about the plan. If it doesn't pan out, then we stay where we are, and if it works out, then we just move next door. So the next door building, if you'd like to have a tour, just come to the office, ask me or Greg, we can give you a quick tour. Whatever we tell you today, the plans are gonna change 9,000 times. We're scheduled to close in early April. There'll be a very slow move because we're still in our current building until the end of December, so there's a lot of month overlap. My guess is the plan tentatively is that we would probably move what we call world headquarters, just the staff. We would get set up in that building first. We have an area that we think we're gonna take. The offices, the building is way nicer than we have now. The finishes are nicer, the furniture is nicer. The problem is most of the furniture we can't use because they're designed for one-man offices with beautiful, who's seen it? Who's seen, right? I mean, beautiful stuff and credenzas and bookshelves and big fat desks. The problem is it was designed for one person. We can make that office to 4 people or a team, and we have to figure out, so square footage wise, it's about the same, but office setup, it's probably about 3 offices short than we have now. But we can make it work, we just have to do a little bit of interior changes. So, if you ever wanna see it, we'll show you what the plan is now, but just know that plan is gonna change 9,000 times because there's so many different ways. So for example, they have 2 beautiful, large conference rooms. But we can make those 2 rooms into 4 rooms and still be larger than we have now, and add a room. We have 3 bathrooms in the new building rather than just 1. So that kind of stuff, and just the finishes, it's all, travertine tile, you'll see it. If you're interested, just let us know, we'll give you a tour. There's never been any secrets on it. Again, it's not a done deal yet, but we're moving in that direction, so.
I think, Sandy, that when you see, I think for those of you who haven't seen the office, it's very impressive when you walk in the front. And I think it will make some of our off-site agents more proud to say, hey, we need to meet at the office today.
Yeah. Who is at the current building since, you've been around for a long time, but you came from Hayden, we came from
Mountain View.
Mountain View. But when Greyhawk opened up, it was sharp looking, I mean, it was It just it's getting a little tired, it's getting a little bit older, and that kind of prompted the change. And then, of course, the investment of owning the building rather than renting the building, you know, was part of that business decision, so.
Well, actually Shay, it was under Fred Astaire. That
Right,
was first.
correct, right, right.
Shay.
And then we were Mountain
Then went to
View.
Mountain View.
Right. That's when it was SunQuest, right? It was
SunQuest, right.
And then Fine Properties, then we
Right,
moved to
right.
Mountain View. And at one time, for what it's worth, Fine Properties had, I think, 5 offices. We had one on Mountain View, Greyhawk. We had another one at Pinnacle Peak, right next to Mastro's. It was a small little building. We had one in Carefree, and we had another small one around 40th and Union Hills. You guys remember that one? So,
I want one in Scottsdale Quarter.
back in the day, I remember, we had about 340 agents in this
Like a
company.
shop.
And then the crash came and things dwindled, and we went down to 1 or 2 offices. When Dell bought the company, we were down to about 150 agents. Currently, we're just under 225. It's been a nice, steady, slow increase over the last bunch of years, so, you know, he's done a great job. What do you guys want to talk about? Do you have any situations coming up here, some deals you want to talk about, share?
I want to say one thing about that, since we're on the office
Yeah.
thing, and, you know, I'm really a big advocate of interoffice networking, that kind of thing. But I'll tell a story about what happened yesterday, and it probably won't work in our favor because it's a great listing, but just by, I always said how many deals were done just by talking in the office and that kind of thing. And I was in the office, and I happened to overhear Otley Smith talking about a new listing. He wasn't even talking to me, I didn't know who he was talking to about it. And I went in and I said, what do you have? And Christy and Otley are listing this gorgeous house in DC Ranch. And I'm like, I got a buyer. She's not here, unfortunately. I think that it's gonna sell faster than she can get here. But you know, that's the kind of thing where I would have never known. It's $1 million house. And so we went and previewed it yesterday, and I immediately, Otley got me the pictures. It hit the market yesterday. And while we were in the office and we were going through some pictures, we happened to see something he had. What was the name of it? Lister? Rocket Lister. I've never heard of it. So just as we were there and he was showing us the pictures, I go, that's phenomenal. What is that? And he said, you don't know anything about it? It's called Rocket Lister. And I said, no, I've never heard about it. And so he just gave us like a 5-minute tutorial on it. And I'm like, we went back to our offices, we're doing that. That's the kind of thing that happens when you interact with your office mates. And that doesn't happen. Those are 2 things that happened yesterday. I would have no idea.
Yeah, and you know, we have that first chance listings program.
Yeah.
So if you have a listing that's coming on board, but it's not in the MLS yet,
Mhm.
just send it to the office and Keith will send it out.
That's a good thing.
And gives you all just the details of what it is, so you get a first shot at it before it hits the market. Yeah, first chance listings. we call it.
So I have a door knocking to share with you guys. So yesterday, 2 days ago, we had a house closed in 85254, and we couldn't put a sign up because she was really nervous that another realtor that she'd spoken to would see a sign. So cute. Super awesome seller, but we sold the house and nobody in the neighborhood knew, and then they were moving. So Frankie and I took a flyer out that said, don't trust the online sites to value your house. Trust a professional. The online sites have never seen the inside of your house or never seen your house, whatever. We put a flyer together and we went and knocked on the doors, and we had so much fun, didn't we?
Very fun.
We had, one woman came out to put her mail out, and we weren't even started yet, but we were just removing the
She
lockbox.
saw us out there, so she was curious.
So she comes out and she takes us through her beautiful house right next door. She's like, I didn't even know they were moving. And it was a fun little afternoon. Another couple I thought were gonna be really pissed at us when they were driving up because they had that snarl on their face. And we were at their door and they come opening their garage door. And we've got our flyer and they've got this grin, like this look. Oh my God, 30 minutes later, I think, we were chatting with them. And they're
It
like,
was so
no
fun.
realtors ever knocked on our door. This is amazing. So it was really positive. Hey, you've got new neighbors over here, kind of like what Dell talks about. It wasn't, nobody was mad at us at all. It was great. I mean, the expireds, they get mad, but it's because they're bombarded, right? But this was a really good opportunity to introduce, just say, hey, you've got new neighbors over here, a couple doors down. Do you know anyone else that wants to sell in the neighborhood? And the lady that invited us in to see her house is gonna list probably in a year or like first quarter next year. And,
Did you have leave behind keys?
yeah, it was the Don't Trust the
Oh, yeah, that's
online
right.
site. And if anybody would like to look at that or copy it or see it or whatever, I'm always open to share. But I thought, give you guys a non-scary door knocking idea. Because it was not scary at all. It was super fun. So,
And you can always find something you have in common with the people, you know, like the one woman that showed us her kitchen.
Yeah.
It was in a
a
It was in
magazine,
a magazine that I was the associate publisher of.
It was such
you know,
perfect timing.
So that was really neat. And then the people down the street know my special needs son because they go to Fry's all the time.
it was super fun.
So
It
you
was a
find
good.
out, you know, you get connections, which brings trust.
And then what you do, but the thing is if you guys don't follow through after the fact, then you've wasted your time and their time and everyone's time.
Yeah.
Your paper, your ink, everything. So we have to put them into your database. You have to talk to them monthly. We tried to get email addresses if we could, but we've got addresses and tax records with their name, and we can send a nice thank you note. So fun meeting you the other day. And then just keep reaching out, because that's
Perfect segue.
your referrals. It's
Wow.
not necessarily gonna be them, it'll be a referral, you know.
More than
maybe.
that, so this is what I was gonna talk about today, perfect segue.
Cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Plan worked
Yes,
perfectly.
I didn't even know.
Okay, I want you to,
And I almost didn't come.
I'm gonna ask you a question, and I want you to just blurt out the number. It doesn't make a difference what, I want you to yell out the number.
Okay,
If you were to put a list together right now of everybody that you know, of everybody that knows you, how many people would be on that list?
1,000.
Just blurt it out, tell me a number.
600.
600, what do you got?
800.
800, just yell out a number, everybody.
500
Okay, here's my question.
Frank,
Where is that list?
it's in my database.
on Facebook.
On Facebook, that's what I was.
Not good enough anymore. Where's your list?
Right,
In my database, in
Not-
my phone.
And what do you do with it?
yes.
That's the point.
What do you do with it?
Tags,
What do you do? Tell me what do you do in email? How often?
Well, I drip, so to different prospects into pipeline, into closed loans, so drip campaign.
I'm not talking about
Oh, you're talking about-
to anybody
I
that
think
you
you
know.
wanna hear something like, we
We call it
Call them
SOI,
up.
right, your sphere of influence?
we call them up and say, hey, how's it going? What's going on with the kids? I can't believe you just had a grandbaby.
Perfect, to contact.
Right, what's
Period.
happening in your life and this is going on.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you my story. For those that come to Kim
guessing.
Advantage, I'm sorry if you hear the story again. This is just my story, it's not the story, it's not the only story, it's just mine.
Okay,
I've always looked for my business, and I'm an individual, not a team, right? So everything has been myself. I've always looked at, there's two sources of business, right, that we do, two things that we do every day. We wake up to look for business, and then we do the business. You can't do the business until you find the business. So every day, everything that Dell teaches is how to do the business, how to get the business. I kind of focus on how to do the business, when you're in your bids or periods, and you're in your contract, and your negotiations, and get your issues. My world has been built on my SOI. That's it. So 5 seconds, I can tell you my story. So I've always had two sources of business, of looking for business. I farmed about 3,000 homes every month, and I had my sphere of influence. And the homes that I chose is kind of what Paul talked about. These neighborhoods all fed in to Sonoran Sky Elementary School. And that was purposely done. And the reason why I did it was threefold. My children went there, and they were 2 years apart. So being involved in school activities and the baseball and tennis and whatever all revolved around the school. And my wife teaches there. So the name Carpin was around. And we went around from kindergarten all the way through 6th grade, and then again, I had another kid who was 2 years behind. So I farmed all of those schools, all of those homes that fed into Sonoran Sky. So for me, the name was already somewhat established, assuming that my kids and Sharon didn't fail them. So that's what I did with my farming, and I did that on a regular basis. But my main bread and butter was my sphere of influence. When this broker job was offered to me, okay, I was tired of looking for new business. I just was tired of doing all the postcards and the mailings, and I was really organized, and I'll explain. I mean, I did everything a year in advance, and I was just tired of it. So I took this job, and with the salary that I get for the job, kind of offset my money I was gonna make from farming. Does that make sense? So this is kind of maybe my exit, my strategy, my retirement, who knows where it takes me. No one ever goes to real estate school to be a broker, right?
Not me.
So, but everything that I do is based on my sphere of influence, and I'm selling probably 2 homes a month. So it's not what I once did, but it keeps me busy enough, and for my needs, it's more than good. Okay, so I've got a list of probably about 600 people on my list. And I will tell you that I've done some great things with it, and I've done some really shitty things with it. Here's the good stuff. These people get something from me at minimum every 3 weeks. Here's the thing, they know me. Either they were a client, they're my friends, we go back to the baseball and Cub Scouts, we've known each other for a long time. And what I'm looking for is not necessarily their piece of business, because they may or may not sell their home every 10 years. I'm looking for their referral business.
Right.
So in my mind, this is how it works for me. My mind thinks a little differently. Just to give you an example, when I run a marathon and there's 40,000 people in the race, I think that I'm winning the race. And the million people that are lining the streets, I don't think they came to watch me, nobody else.
Right.
Everybody else is just there.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I just think, in a fantasy world.
You're a winner.
So in my world of business, I am the director of sales of my company. I have one job and one job only, is to help people buy and sell real estate. That's my job. And I've got a sales staff. And my sales staff is 600 people on my sales staff. And they have one job and one job only, is to bring me the business. I'm not asking them to do the business. I want them to bring me the business, right? So someone on my list, and they're at lunch with somebody, and one of their girlfriends said, "Oh, my brother's moving into town. He got a job transfer, and they'll be looking for a house. House, you should call Sandy
Right.
Carpin."
Right.
My job is to make sure those 600 people make my name synonymous with real estate at all times. Maybe it's their social events. It's kind of like the multi-network marketing. Make them work for you. And these 600 people, we have monthly meetings. We have monthly meetings where we get together. And we discuss one thing and one thing only. The meeting goes like this. I'm Sandy the Realtor. When you know somebody, remember me. Just send me your business. And we meet once a month. Right? So not physically like this, but they meet through my postcards, through my mailings, through my contacts, through everything that I do. And my job, my sales pitch to them is, just remember, I'm the realtor, you're the sales guy. When you have somebody that needs real estate or have any information, just send them my way, I'll take good care of it. That's it. And I will tell you, for almost 30 years, that has kept me in business. Okay? Here's the good news. When I go on listings, I don't really compete because these people know me. It's really, Sandy, come sell my house. Sandy, we're ready to downsize. Sandy, my kids are ready to buy a house, right? When you're farming and you don't know the people, you're probably going against 2 or 3 realtors. And there's a big difference. Mine are more, come list me, or I'm ready to buy a house, can you help me? More than I'm interviewing 2 or 3 realtors, and you have to dazzle with your brilliance and dazzle with charts. So it's a little bit easier when you get that kind of those phone calls. So here's what some of the things that I do on my list, and this is why I bring this up. So on my list, I have a database. It's real simple.
There's Marco right there.
You don't need a fancy program, but it's really simple. But you do need to be somewhat organized, right? So obviously I have a name. And here's something that's interesting, right? It's so simple, it was so stupid that I never thought about this until about 4 years ago. About 4 years ago, something just triggered my mind that I doubled my list like that. I went from 200 to 400 like that. And how did I do it? I didn't have Frank and Melissa Finelli on my list. Frank is one person and Melissa is another person. Frank has his world, Melissa has her world. Why would I just send them one email? Why can't I send them both? Their world may be overlapping, but he's got his world, she's got a whole other set of people. I doubled my list. Why would I just send it to one when I can send it to both of you and think of it individually? And maybe Frank's not sharing with Melissa, or vice versa, right? So if you have a husband and wife, each one gets a line item. Each one is a line, because they are an individual with their own email address and so on. Make sense? You'll double your list just like that. So I have their name. I no special order. I have their date of birth. I mean, with a birth date. And all I'm not interested in their actual year, I don't care how old they are, I just want the month. So let's say it's May, that's all I want, just want May. Then I have, if they're married, I have their anniversary, and again, I just have their month, so maybe it's June. I just want to know the month, and I'll explain all this to you. It's just that simple, and all this information is pretty easy to get. Call them up, they're updating your list, whatever the case may be, maybe you already have
Drop
it.
them on Facebook.
Facebook, however you get it, it's another way to get contact, but this is stuff, this is good stuff. Anniversary, I have their home anniversary. And whether they bought a house from me or not makes no difference. It doesn't make a difference, go to tax records. Again, I don't care about the year, I just wanna know the month that they bought their house, right? Then I wanna know their subdivision. I wanna know their subdivision name. So these people live in DC Ranch. Easy to obtain, just go to tax records, you'll get everything you wanna know, okay? So here's what I do, can't think of, but, and obviously the address and email address and phone number, but I don't really care if they have 2 kids and a dog, that's of no
The day
interest
that
to
they
me.
bought their house from you?
Well, I have the home anniversary.
Oh, home
and I did just
anniversary.
a month.
I see.
If you come to my office any given day, you'll see that every day I bring in little note cards. And what I do is this. In January, I write a letter that goes out in February. And on February 1st, I start the letters, or it's already pre-done, and I send it out usually by the 4th or the 5th. And the letter, this is just one idea. The letter goes to this. Dear Frank and Melissa, happy home anniversary. This month marks another year you've been in your house. In my ongoing effort to keep you updated in today's market, I've enclosed a market analysis of your immediate subdivision. Hope this is of interest to you. Any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Hope you find this helpful, hope all is well. And then I always hand sign it. Hope all is good. Frank, how's, hope you're recovering from your surgery, or whatever, I can make it personal. But every one of them gets a handwritten thing, okay? But these letters are already pre-printed. So for example, if you come to my house right now, I've got March's and April's and May's letters already done. The letters aren't changing, the names aren't changing, the months aren't changing, it's just done. So now if I'm sitting in an open house, guess what I'm doing? Just signing letters. Hope all is well, hope everything is good, hope you find this helpful. Any questions, give me a call. Make sure it's already done. So now what happens is, on the 1st of February, I'll sit in my office and I'm gonna do, let's say I've got 50 of those letters, I'm gonna be just doing 50 CMAs. And here's what I don't do. I don't get specific. I don't care if it's 3-bedroom, 2-bath, no pool, I don't really care. I'm just doing their subdivision in the last 6 months, generally speaking. So it might be McDowell Mountain Ranch. Here's the activity, hello, happy home anniversary, this month's marks. And it's just basically all the activity in McDowell Mountain Ranch in the last 6 months. And if there's 50 or 250, it makes no difference. I just want to give them an overview of what's happening in their subdivision. Nothing, if they really want to be specific and they call me up, that's great. Then I would do the 4-bedroom, single level, no pool, that kind of stuff. Because I'm not pricing their house to sell it, I'm just giving them an idea what's going on in their immediate subdivision. Okay?
Awesome.
6 months later, so February would take you to August, July, whatever it is, right? But 6 months later, you're gonna get another letter. And it's gonna say, Dear Frank and Melissa, in my ongoing effort to keep you updated in today's real estate market, I've enclosed a market analysis. Same letter, it just doesn't say happy home anniversary. And again, I'll sign it with some sort of thing, and I do exactly the same thing. So twice a year, they're gonna get a CMA. I mean, that's not, in my opinion, that's what I think people want. They want meat and potatoes, what's going on. It'll break your heart when you do a CMA and you see that person's name of a house for sale, or a house that's sold. It'll just stick a dagger through your heart. But here's what I do. I don't say anything, I don't call them on it. I just go to tax records, I look at their new address, and I just change their address, and I just keep them on the list. Just move on. But I tell you, it'll break your heart when you see, Frank, oh my God. Dude, it'll.
You can only blame yourself though.
It'll break your heart. So that's just one concept, okay? Same thing on their month. So every, I have these note cards, the Remax note cards, you see like thank you notes on it. So I got them pre-printed, and I got about hundreds of them in my house. Half of them say happy birthday, the other half says happy anniversary. So again, at my open house, I handwrite it. Hope you have a great day and another fabulous year to come. You're not getting older, you're getting better. Whatever the case may be, can you believe it? We're 60 years old, right? I mean, it's something. And I just send them a birthday card. So now, this is where it gets really tricky. So I've got these envelopes in my house on the first of every month. You're gonna see you're gonna have a date on the envelope, like 1 or 2 or 6, and that coincides with their birthday. So if I want to send it out on if their birthday is February 6th, I probably want to send it out the 2nd or the 3rd. I try to get it to where they get it a day before or that day. So in my house, I have it all lined up. Every morning when I wake up and before I come to work, I look at 3 or 4 days in advance, and I put a stamp right over that area so they don't see the date.
We should do a field trip
And
too.
every morning, I just put it in the mailbox.
I'm a visual person, I need to see it.
Come to my office, I'll show you how it works.
So you handwrite the outside of the card too? and
I
you
handwrite it,
stamp
and my wife helps me, and I've got a little label that, for the return address. And what happens is, they see the Remax name, they see my name inside the card, outside the, even if they don't open the envelope, my name was there.
So do you print, to get these numbers for like, say for February, do you go in January, look at your calendar, print that out to know
Yes,
in your database?
yeah, because my database, I pull it out by the month. That's why the month to me is what's important, not the year.
Right,
With the only house 10 years or 12 years, I just want the month.
So it's
Because
all
I'm sending them
this
monthly
year.
things, I'm sending them monthly things. And I do the same thing on their home anniversary. I mean on their actual anniversary date. Just happy anniversary, I can't believe you're stuck with the bump for all these years, whatever it takes, I do something. Some of my friends, I just write the word yo. I just think, it's just an acknowledgement. So this is it's just keeping in touch, that's all it really is. But just remember, these people know you, right?
Yeah.
So you said 1,000 people or 500 people, what are you doing with them on a regular basis? And then I use Constant Contact for just a monthly newsletter. That's a no-brainer. So every 3 weeks, they're just gonna get Constant Contact. And there's a few more I can't remember, but there's about 6 of these things or 7 of these things that they'll get from me that's personalized every year. This has just worked wonders. It just keeps you in touch with these people. They know you. They know you, so now you gotta keep in touch. And then here comes the challenge. Get your list. And you have to be devoted to this. This is where I failed. And I said earlier how I suck at this at the same time. Get your list, whatever your number is. Get that list going and use it. It'll pay dividends, I promise you will. Your goal then is to add 3 names every week. And it sounds so simple. 3 names every week. I went to leadership and I met 4 people. I went to whatever, and I met a person. I went to the Chamber of Commerce. I went to the Wine Club of America, I met 3 people. I joined a church or a synagogue and I got a mailing list of all the members. Add 3 people per week. Keeping the thing in your car, notepad in your car. I'm old fashioned, I don't do the video for the voice thing. I just met somebody. How about this one? How about you were the listing agent and the buyer bought your listing, right, from another agent. The buyer moves into that house. Why not put that buyer on your list? If you had a good transaction, why not? It's not the other agent's buyer anymore. That other agent might be doing it to your seller, right? 3 people per week. It's not hard, but yet it's really hard.
It's hard.
It's not easy.
You can become complacent very easily.
Yes.
I think one of the things that what you're saying, it might feel overwhelming to some people, but just start. Don't finish your list, just start your
Yeah,
list.
just start your list. Just get a format. Name, email address, home address, birthday, home anniversary, subdivision. Just have a chart. Just keep it with you and just fill in names. I'm sorry.
So it sounds like a lot of what, like the Buffini program?
It's all,
You know.
do you remember back in the days it was Howard Britton? That's where it came
So
from.
that's where.
Howard was buddy of
That's
mine.
where it
And one
came
step
from.
further, this is what we do, with the Buffini, is that we go see them, we go to the Popeyes.
Popeyes, yes.
Popeyes, and we go
Yeah.
bring them gifts.
Sure,
and
why
that's what
not?
we do all the time.
Why not?
And they're using that.
So everyone knows the NAR statistic of 80% of the people say they'd use the same agent a year later, but only 20% can remember the name. Katie and I know an agent over in the West Valley, and she had a buyer insist that she was their agent when she had the listing. And they actually started arguing about it, like jokingly, like, no, I really didn't represent you in this transaction. They said, oh, you absolutely did. She goes, let me show you that I was just the listing agent on this. It was jerks. So,
I'll tell you another story. Can you shut that for a second?